have you ever experienced waking up one day and feeling like there's a part of you that's incomplete? As if you are longing for the comfort and reassurance to make yourself feel like you're not alone. Until you would get into a point wherein you look for someone who will fulfill in those gaps. But the thing here is, would you know how to handle new people coming into your life? What if those people are already around you, but you don't see them because you think what you needed was a different kind of comfort? Or what if all you ever needed was just within you? Hello everyone! I am Wen. I am your host for the second episode of the Youth Matter podcast. And I'd like to welcome you here where you matter. The Youth Matter podcast is where we hear the youth and the youth can hear us. Aside from where you're currently streaming, you can also check this podcast on our platforms. Make sure to watch it via YouTube or Facebook. The podcast episodes are also available in audio format, posted in Anchor and Spotify. The links to these streaming sites are shared along with these postings. We appreciate if you join in our conversations through the comments section below and share this podcast with others as well. Hello everyone and welcome to our podcast. And for today's episode, we are joined by a very special guest, a registered clinical psychologist, Dr. 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝘁𝗵𝗶.
Thank you very much, Wen. It's my honor to be here. Of course, aside from being a clinical psychologist, I've been doing some mental health advocacy for almost 15 years now. And I'm so happy that the youth is now getting involved with your organization through this organization. And it's a pleasure and it's a privilege. I hope that those who are watching right now, you can learn something from this very meaningful discussion.
And for today's episode, before we will dig in what will be our topic, and I know everyone, this is a topic where we can relate into, where we've all been before. Diba? Loneliness can really have a huge impact on how we see life. We have lost someone or people in our lives, and it's truly very hard to recover from it, to a point where it would be hard to let anyone come into our lives again. And I believe that is what we all can relate to. For today's episode, we will be talking about relationship. But before that, before we will answer the questions from earlier, let's define first what is relationship, or to which people are we limited to have it with?
Relationship is not limited to what we call romantic relationship. The first relationships that we had, this would be with our family members because we are born with this particular environment. So we establish attachment and we establish emotional bond with our parents and our siblings and the people surrounding us. In the absence of the family members, we relate and we establish that kind of relationship with our caregivers. So practically the people who we grew up with, these are the people that we relate and we establish those kinds of relationship. And then later on, as we socialize with other people, that's how part of our development, we get interested with other people with the opposite sex or maybe with the same gender. And that's how when the romantic relationship would come in.
That is one thing, like millennials, they are bounded with the definition of relationship into romantic. Mm-hmm. So, but relationship is more than that, diba? It is as long as there is an investment in connectedness, emotions. There is an where you can relate on to people, and it is not just bounded with person. As long as you invest your emotion towards something, you can call it as relationship.
In the traditional perspective, we view relationship, yung first relationship natin is by blood, meaning family members. But I guess with the growing complexities in life nowadays, and more parents are working abroad, sometimes children are being left with the caregivers or even the extended family members. So attachment is a very, very important role and factor in establishing a stable relationship. That is why it all starts during childhood days or during the childhood period. If you're able to satisfy that psychological need, you are emotionally attached to your caregivers, to your parents, and to your siblings. That's how you can really say that you're ready to venture into another relationship outside the family environment. So, to the youth out there listening and watching right now, it's really very important for us to establish first a good relationship with our family members. It develops us to become more flexible in different situations. It prepares us to become more flexible in terms of dealing with different personalities, because sometimes within the family din ay nagkakaroon ng mga differences. How much more if you're going to venture into another relationship outside the family environment? That is what you call the romantic relationship. So don't rush things. It will just come when you're mature enough, physically, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually.
In terms of what we call that, sir, di ba? Doc, na you mentioned there are a lot of relationship, di ba? Which relationship do you value most and why?
Family relationship is the most important foundation, even in the development of our personality. That's the foundation, actually. That is why, if you can remember beautiful memories while growing up with your family, with your mom and dad, and with your siblings, that can give you a sense of emotional attachment and security. And as a foundation of that personality, you would grow up trusting to people, and you would be more confident about yourself. So, karamihan na nagkakaroon ng mga problema when you rush things and yung family relationship is hindi stable. And then sometimes, teenagers and the youth, they look for other relationships outside the family relationship because they were not satisfied. And that's a very, not very good reason to automatically jump into a romantic relationship because you're not satisfied with the family relationship. What you can do is actually fix first, or make it more stable. If you have issues with your mom and dad, of course, there's no such thing as perfect family relationship. There would always be problems. There would always be conflicts, but you try to resolve it within the family. So first is open communication. You should be open to your parents and to the rest of the family members how you feel and what are the things that you can do to improve the relationship within the family. And by that time, siguro, pagdating mo na ng 18, when you consider yourself old enough, then you can start socializing outside the family environment. And that's also a good opportunity for us to practice and be more flexible in dealing with different personalities. And volunteering to organization, just like what you're doing right now, is such a very, very good exposure for most of the youth, Filipino youth, to become mature enough intellectually and emotionally. And mas less ang problema natin pag napapractice natin yung ating skills, social skills within the family environment and outside the family environment before we finally decide to venture into a romantic relationship.
In terms of, as you mentioned a while ago, is that conflict within the family is inevitable.
Yes.
Almost every family members experience those kinds of things. And also with friends, diba? We have different cliques or we have different groups. So, what are those reasons, Doc, that that there's a boundary where we cannot share our problems to our family and friends?
Okay. Number one is really communication. If it's already a culture in the family that communication is a little bit dysfunctional, that would be a problem later on because you cannot express yourself freely because parents are somehow very strict or stiff. There's nothing wrong with being stiff or strict as long as the children can relate and they can actually express themselves. So, This is also not just for the youth, but for all the parents out there, that you should establish an effective communication with your children, and it starts during the childhood days. You let them explore and you let them express their feelings and their emotions, especially their thoughts. And that's how you establish mutual effective communication between parents and children. And as they grow up, it becomes already a culture within the family. And it's easier to trust one another if there is quality communication. And siguro yung isa sa pinaka-problema dyan is really listening. Sometimes parents are not effective listeners, so they just impose the rules and what they want for their children. Sometimes children does not listen from their parents. So it's a two-way process. It takes two to tango, sabi nga nila. So dapat pag nagsalita, nag-express yung mga bata, ay dapat pakinggan nila mga parents. Yung mga youth din, yung mga kabataan, pag nag-express din, nag-explain yung parents nila, I guess it's also very important for them to listen. Kasi yun ang problema sa communication eh. No one is listening. Both parties wanted to talk and talk and talk. So, walang nakikinig. So, mas maganda siguro na minsan kailangan natin ma-develop din yung listening skills natin to have a better communication within the family.
In an instance, Doc, diba, some youth, their families are like in abroad, away from them. How can they establish that kind of relationship with their parents or with their friends if within sa bahay pa nga nila, there is no one, or maybe with their siblings only, na makakommunicate sila, or how can they overcome it?
Well, in the most crucial period or stage in the development of the children, I would really suggest that parents should be present. That is why, siguro, ito yung mga age na until 12 years old. That's the most crucial development stage of a child. So, kung pwede naman makastay either one parent, tapos yung isa lang pwede mag-abroad or magtrabaho, that would really help in establishing a good relationship and communication. Ang problem kasi natin because of, parents will have to work abroad to have a better financial situation within the family. So sometimes they leave their children very early or young at age. So from the very beginning, nagkaroon na talaga ng insecure attachment for both parents or a parent and their children. So mahirap na yun magsa-struggle talaga both parties to arrest or even to develop more quality relationship. Pero kung medyo naintindihan na yung mga kabataan, yung mga bata, why their parents left at the age of 12, puberty stage, and establish na yung strong attachment and emotional bond between the parents and also their children, it would be easier for them to continue that quality of relationship. And thank God that we have the technology right now. We have the internet and you have your smartphone. That's the way how you can continue maintaining that quality of relationship through constant communication. So that's what we do kasi hindi naman talaga natin pwedeng ma-assure na physically present lahat ng mga members ng family. Sometimes children will have to go to college and they need to leave home. Sometimes parents will have to work abroad to earn money for the family. So we use the technology, but we don't become slaves of technology, right? For the youth out there, please don't become slaves of the technology, but you can use it to your advantage. Communicate constantly to your loved ones. And parents should also make effort na pag ganitong time, dapat mag-message tayo, magtawag, mag-update, and all of these things. So, we can make use of the technology nowadays to make communication more effective and still establish a quality relationship.
That's right. No. Constant communication.
Yes, constant communication, and then openness is also very important, especially at awkward stage, puberty and teenage period. There's so many issues going on, like the physical changes, socialization, sometimes may bullying sa school, problems with yung the sexual and reproductive system, hindi na maintindihan ng mga bata, hindi masyadong ma-explain sa school because of the society is a bit conservative. The best persons na pwede nating tanungin about it are the parents or your guardians or kung sino man nakakatanda para mas maintindihan natin kung anong nangyayari sa katawan natin, sa emotional state natin, and we can also seek advice from these people kasi sila yung may experience. So, youth out there, do not rush things. Trust your caregivers and your parents because they will not let you parang hindi nila hayaan na may mangyaring masama sa inyo. Do not ever think that it's parang they go against your opinion. It's just okay to be idealistic because youth nowadays are very idealistic and part yan ng stages of development natin. But make sure you are being guided ng mga adults na merong wisdom and may experience in life.
If those relationships like friends and families, and let's say you mentioned a while ago, when you are already in the adolescence, now you're ready to commit, you're ready to have it in the next level relationship or in the romantic relationship. But we have these questions is that why do we tend to find partners in life if those friends, we have friends and family, why do we look for that specific person or go into romantic relationships?
If we have already other relationships, like example, the family members and friends, because it's part of our psychological need, diba? So you cannot really blame teenagers engaging into romantic relationship. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that you need to evaluate and assess first if you are ready physically, if you are ready emotionally, if you are ready mentally, socially, and if you are ready financially, because it's also very expensive to maintain a romantic relationship. You need to communicate constantly with each other. So, meaning to say, you have to spend for your internet connection, for your load. And when you go out on a date, kung fair share kayo, you need to spend for your meal. And all of these things, kailangan po ay maging ready tayo sa mga aspeto na yan before we jump into a relationship. Do not rush. If the relationship is still brewing or still developing, maybe that's the early stage. Pwede kayo maging friends muna as you discover each other. Kasi you'll never know at the end, hindi pala kayo compatible. But the reason why you want to make it official is really because in every aspects, you think you are ready. And you should communicate that with your prospect na partner or girlfriend and boyfriend. Again, babalik tayo sa communication, open communication. So you should talk about it, both of you, and both parties should be responsible kung ano yung mga priorities nila. Because as a teenager, most of them are still in high school or even in college. So how ready are you to take it to the next level? And then sometimes youth, they become also very emotional. Because if you study the mechanism of the brain, ang prefrontal lobe natin, which is responsible for logic, this one, sometimes na-overpower ng yung middle part of the brain, which is doon na napoproduce or located yung emotions natin. If you undergo a brain scan ng mga teenagers, mapapansin ninyo na yung stimulated na part of the brain is really the emotion part of the brain. So meaning to say, some or most of the decisions of our teenagers or youth would come from the emotion and not really from here, from what you call logic. So you have to be careful when you make decisions based on emotions because sometimes nagkakaroon tayo ng mga mistakes in life. That is why youth should be guided properly by our mga caregivers or guardians, especially our parents.
I'd like to emphasize that yung sinabi mo, Doc, na we need to have a stable what we call that emotion state. We have the mental state of ourselves before we undergo or we go to the next level or romantic relationship. We need to secure ourselves first if you're complete.
Yes.
So you'll know your value to your partner.
Yes.
Na up to what can you offer to that person.
Yes. And you have to remember that at this particular stage, both of you are still growing. So part ng growth ng ang ninyong dalawa as individuals would also be the growth of the relationship. So do not rush things. Kung medyo early part ng relationship pa, getting to know each other, that's just fine. It will become deeper as we go along. And as we develop our personalities as individuals, the relationship would also grow. So mas meaningful siya. Hindi yung magja-jump ka into a relationship and then expecting that it's gonna be serious or what. You need to enjoy being a teenager, being young and a youth. So you explore things together, but if you're not knowledgeable of what you're getting into, better not go in there. So what I mean with exploration is that you can both become volunteers, like here sa Red Cross Youth or any organization, because it also develops the soft skills and other skills na pwede maging advantage as you mature, as you become older or responsible individuals.
So we talk about the different relationship like friends, family, and romantic relationship. So at the moment, it is a fact that we are facing a pandemic.
Yes.
That there is a limited time or limited to meet our friends or our other type of relationships. But how can this relationship, family, friends, and romantic one, can help us through this kind of situations that we have right now?
Yes, and so we have different reactions when it comes to, how to deal with yung lockdowns and the restrictions that we have because of the COVID-19 pandemic. It's almost been like a year now. I remember in our city, we had our lockdown during March last year. It's almost March now. So it's been a year, and a lot of people, not only the youth, are struggling really to survive the situation because we are being affected not just psychologically but also economically, politically, and all of these factors contributed. And some, they develop some adjustment problems. The family, friends, and even romantic relationships would serve as our social support and moral support to go through this difficult situation. So they help us become more positive in life. They help us become more resilient in life. And it makes us a stronger person knowing na merong mga tao na sumusuporta sa atin no matter what happens. Like, for example, with the new system or academic, yung sa school, yung sistema sa school natin because of the online class and the modular program na whatever ang ini-impose ng school ninyo, sobrang laki ng adjustment na kailangan pagdaanan ng mga students. And our relationships, whether it is family, friends, or even romantic relationship, would serve as our support group because they understand, they empathize with us what we are going through at this moment. So it can be also very positive kasi nakaka-survive tayo even in this amidst the difficulties and this crisis because we know someone that these people really care about us and they love us no matter what.
In terms of we have already existing friend relationship with other people. In terms of meeting new people, diba? This first question in the first part, what are the benefits in meeting new people or being in a new relationship, like friendship or any types of relationship?
There are advantages and disadvantages, no? Kasi if you're going to use the internet, there's so many groups right there, or you meet a lot of people using different apps. And it's good when you can you can socialize, virtual socialization ang nangyayari because limited yung physical socialization nowadays. But you have to be very, very careful kasi maraming napapahamak meeting new people online because you never know what they're showing on screen would be the real personality, and then you'll never know their intentions. Maraming napapahamak po dyan. So, I guess we should be cautious about meeting new people. But if ever you'll be able to meet some people that you can say na talagang pwede mo masabing kaibigan, maging kaibigan, pwede maging best friend, that would add up to your emotional security because you can say na meron pala mga taong pinapahalagaan ako, meron pala mga tao na pwede ko talagang ma-express yung emotions ko, yung opinions ko, yung sarili ko at tanggap ako. That is also very helpful. But again, we don't trust basta-basta kung sino lang yung nami-meet natin, especially pag online. Because pag online, hindi natin alam kung anong intention ng taong yon sa'yo. So, if ever meron kayong ma-meet, let the relationship grow and get to know each other more before you finally trust that person, whether friends lang or even romantic relationship.
In some cases po, Doc, also me, I also experienced this kind of situation. Why is there a struggle for someone to engage with other people? Like accepting new people in their lives or into relationships?
So, tayo, especially at this stage, yung mga youth, meron nang lumalabas na mga stable traits and personality characteristics. So that would also become part of their personality. We can say, nabuo na yung personality ng isang tao when they reach usually 18 years old and pataas. Diba? Meron mga taong introvert na not comfortable with socializing with other people. Meron ding mga taong extrovert. So, we have to go back again to the family environment, to the environment that you grow up with, kasi yun ang pinaka-biggest factor in influencing your personality later on in life. But meron talaga mga tao na introvert, meron naman talagang extrovert kasi hindi naman pare-pareho yung mga tao. Some people, they're already content with 5, 4, 3 friends. For some people, they need to explore and meet other people because they love being with people. So, iba-iba yung mga personalities natin. And we should accept that and we should respect that. But it doesn't mean to say na hindi mo na pwedeng i-improve. Pwede pa rin i-improve if you think you're aloof, you are socially withdrawn, that part of your personality can still be improved by joining organizations and meeting new people. In that way, you'll be able to adjust to different situations. You become more flexible, and then, meaning to say, pwede ka rin maging sociable kahit konti. Pwede mo siyang ma-modify, pwede mo siyang ma-develop.
So what can advice na lang po in terms of those people that struggles to interact with other people?
Well, for those people who are struggling in terms of socialization or interacting with other people, give yourself a chance, because most of the lessons in life we learn through experience. And when you say experience, interaction with other people. So you go out, and the best way is to join organizations. Be a volunteer. Kasi a volunteer, you meet other people, you're being exposed to different environments, and then you value yung tinatawag nating group work, and then in return, you develop your social skills. Your personality might not change 100%, but at least na-develop mo yung socialization skills mo kasi iba-iba naman ang personalities natin. So, my advice is really go out. Don't be afraid. It's okay sometimes, to be awkward with a group of people, but at least you try. And that's how you learn how to become flexible and, develop your social skills.
So, di ba, personal growth is also involved in that kind of situation.
Yes.
So, how does your personality, di ba, closely related to MBT personality classifications, affect your different kinds of relationships?
Okay. So, for some people, just like I've said a while ago, may iba-ibang personality. Most common siguro talaga, and then alam na ng na usual na yung mga tao kasi nasa-search natin sa Google is introvert and extrovert. So how does it affect the relationship? Sometimes yung partner mo or yung girlfriend boyfriend mo, if you are an extrovert, sometimes you need a partner to balance yung pagiging sociable mo. Sometimes you need an introvert, someone who is more homebody, so someone na pwedeng what do you call this one, pwedeng makapagbigay sa iyo ng another perspective na it's also good to stay at home or to be with just two people, hindi kailangan na group of people. So it enhances your other skills in terms of socialization, and it changes also your perception na for some introvert to be with other people, para na-appreciate mo na it's good pala to have to expose yourself to other people. Like for example, when I was in high school, I was a little bit introvert. I'm scared of meeting people, but when someone maybe 1, 2, or 3 classmates approached me and they became very, very close to me. After few months or even years, I was able to appreciate na masarap pala merong kaibigan. Masarap pala minsan-minsan meron ka rin kausap. Kasi sometimes, yung mga youth natin, nahihirapan silang makarelate doon sa ibang tao. Kung meron silang mga qualities na somehow pareho ng isang tao na yon, mas nagiging comfortable sila with that person, and the more that they'll be able to express themselves and their opinion. So, ang problema kasi kaya nagkakaroon ng sometimes depression yung mga youth natin is that they have limited defense mechanism or outlets. So yung mga friends natin, they can also be our outlets in terms of expressing our emotions and our opinions. And they can really help. They can provide you that venue and that outlet, and also you can feel you're being accepted as a person. Even if hindi ka naman perfect, you have mga traits na gusto nila, meron din silang traits na hindi nila gusto. And they can provide feedbacking. When you say feedbacking, kung ano yung behavior mo or medyo hindi acceptable sa norm sa society natin, they can give you advices or sasabihin sa iyo when medyo very yung behavior mo is not acceptable. So, how would you learn kung ikaw lang mag-isa? Usually, our friends and even your partner, girlfriend, boyfriend will tell you kung merong may part sa personality mo na pwede mo pang i-improve. That's why they can really be a big help
in improving
one's personality.
So you've mentioned a while ago, sir, no? I'd like to emphasize that your personality also will have changes if you have you're into different kinds of group or into different kinds of relationship, because I believe that if you surround with different kinds of people and the attitude or the upbringing of them, you will manifest those attitude or their mindsets. So, why would we be happy if we undergo relationships? Because I believe that you said a while ago that it takes two to tango. So we need a companionship into our lives. So I want to know the deeper understanding into why do we really need to have a relationship, or why would be happy as a person if you are into a relationship?
As I've said, it's a need and also part of the process, the exploration to really discover more about yourself. By engaging in this kind of relationship, you're not only discovering other people, but you're also discovering your inner qualities. So for some teenagers, especially for those na talagang under 18 pa, nagde-develop pa yung kanilang personality, this is part of the exploration until they can say that they have already yung tinatawag na identity achievement. Identity achievement, to reach that kind of category or level, you need to have a lot of experiences and you have to explore a lot. Kasi may mga different categories yan. Merong identity moratorium, meaning pag identity moratorium, hindi pa tayo nakapag-reach ng stable personality natin, yung tinatawag na identity achievement. Meron ding identity diffusion, talagang nag-explore tayo, pero medyo yung diffusion ay may disadvantages din kasi napapariwara o napupunta tayo sa mga hindi maganda mga grupo or mga medyo hindi magandang influences sa atin. Kaya siya diffused. And then, what is really important is that you learn from those experiences, you take it, yung mga lessons learned, kasi hindi naman perfect lahat ng mga relationships. Somehow, you will meet persons that would hurt you, or somehow, you meet persons na hindi kayo compatible, and then you learn that, you bring that with you, and then you become a better person, and then you accept also your mistakes, your weaknesses, and also your strengths as a person. When you reach that kind of level na meron acceptance, both your weaknesses and your strengths, you're comfortable already with yourself physically. So you ask yourself, what are the things that I want to develop physically? Are you content with what you're seeing right now in the mirror? If you want to lose weight, engage in sports because you want to be strong and healthy. All of these things. Emotionally, you consider yourself childish. You want to become mature. Intellectually, you want to know more. So these are the different facets and factors that make up of a personality, and you learn that along the way as you establish and then you interact with other people, or you have this romantic relationship, as they say.
In terms of having a healthy relationships with your friends and family, diba? Always mention ni Doc is that have an open communication with those friends or family members, and go to interact with them. But some people, they're called seasons, diba? In every group of people, na there are seasons of our lifetime that they are in our lives.
Yes.
Sometimes
because sometimes they come in and then they go.
And that's the question, Doc, is that why people have a difficulty to let go of those friends or relationship with other.
Because we have this tendency to become emotionally attached and dependent with other people. So, pag halimbawa, nawala na yung tao na yon, nawala na yung relationship na yon, feeling mo, hindi ka na makapag-move on. Feeling mo, you are incomplete. Feeling mo, wala nang saysay yung buhay mo, mundo mo, kasi for the longest time, dun ka na nakadepende sa isang tao na yon. So, meaning to say, when you get into a relationship, you should feel satisfied and content with what you have. By the time that person leaves for whatever reason, you can still get up and you can still value yourself. Walang nawala sa'yo, meron lang taong umalis, but for sure, meron din darating. So, self-love is very, very important. You cannot give what you don't have. Love yourself first before you can share that love to another individual.
Make sure that you yourself is complete before you engage to another relationship.
Hindi ako naniniwala sa phrase na you complete me, because even if hindi mo pa nami-meet yung tao na yan, you're already complete as an individual. You're born in this world alone. So meaning you're complete, kompleto ka. Do not ever think na pag nawala yung tao na yan ay hindi ka na makakabangon. Of course, that's just a phase, that's just a part of your development, that's just a part of your experience, and what you can carry, yung lessons learned to become better individual.
Yes, focus on what is there and what is there to be learned rather
Yes.
than what ifs and what it was in terms of letting go of people.
And I'm sure it's easier said than done. Hindi ko sinasabi na madali. Mahirap. But yung pain na nararamdaman ninyo after a breakup is just part of that experience. That's a reality that you cannot take away, that you cannot deny. That's part of life. We all become beautiful individuals because of pain and suffering. There's beauty in pain. Huwag kayong matakot na masaktan kasi that will make you a stronger person in life.
Yes, yan yun din yung fear ng ibang tao. That's why they have difficulty in letting go because of the pain that it will cause them or their mindset na baka wala ng ganitong type of relationship na makikita sa ibang tao. Na ganun.
For some people, it takes a long period of time to get over from a breakup, from that painful experience. For some people, they can easily adjust, pero depende po yun. Iba-iba, as I've said, iba-iba yung personalities natin. Yung iba, mas madali matanggap na yung breakup. Yung ibang tao naman, medyo matagal talaga mag-heal. But as what they always say, time heals. So, let's wait for that perfect time when you wake up in the morning and then you can say, I'm perfectly okay, but there's nothing wrong with saying I'm not okay. It's okay not to be okay. You have to experience that. Kailangan mapagdaanan natin yung sitwasyon na yan. And in time, you can really say that I survived. I am very proud of myself. And I have become a better person because of that experience. But do not close your heart and mind. For some people, they lose the parang trust. Kasi yung trust sa ibang tao dahil ayaw na nila mag-engage into a relationship because of what happened. Because hindi sila nagkatuluyan ng partner nila. Please just have an open mind and an open heart. You are still very, very young. And I'm sure billions of people in this entire planet, there's one person that would be right for you. It will come in the right time. Who knows? Nandyan lang sa tabi-tabi mo, hindi mo lang napapansin.
In terms of friendship po, Doc, in letting go of friendships, if we let go of them, is that what we call does it mean that we are giving up on them?
If you're letting go, if you want to give up a person, it doesn't mean that that person ay wala nang value sa life mo. There are so many situations in life that you have to let go a person. Whether it is romantic or whether it is friendship. You know, halimbawa, meron ng sariling buhay yung tao. Best friend mo, may pamilya na siya, ikaw single ka pa, marami na siyang responsibilities and is working or she's working really very hard for his or her family. So meaning to say, you give time and space for that person kasi meron na siyang another priority in life. Hindi na kayo magkatugma. Pag sinabi mong i-let go mo, i-give up mo siya, but it doesn't mean na kakalimutan mo siya. He or she would always occupy a special place in your heart because friendship doesn't mean you have to be physically present. For some people, yung friendship nila, it would last a lifetime even if they just see each other once every 10 years. Yun yung mutual understanding because the relationship, the experiences that you had in the past, it is something that you consider special. It is what you consider treasure. That even if you don't talk anymore because of some reasons, of some circumstances, hindi ibig sabihin na hindi mo na iti-treasure yung memories ninyo. He or she would always be special to you because iba-iba lang yung direksyon natin sa buhay. Ikaw papunta dito, siya naman ay dito naman. Magkaiba yung road na tinatahak ninyo. Pero it doesn't mean na kailangan magkalimutan. You yourselves, alam ninyo na both parties tinitreasure nyo yung friendship at tinitreasure nyo yung memories. Even if nakikita lang kayo once every 10 years, it doesn't really matter anymore.
in terms of having a lasting or lifetime relationship with friends, with with what we call that, our romantic relationship, Doc, what advice can you give to those people who are aiming to be in a better relationship? Anong magagawa nila sa sarili na? Or if they're already in a relationship, what can they do to strengthen their relationship with each other?
So, you start with the self. Develop yourself first, satisfy yourself first. Kung meron kayong mga goals in life, like for example, financially, you want to be stable, you want to tour the world, you want to travel, first, you do it for yourself. And then there would come a time, one day, you will just realize that you're ready for a partner to share all of these experiences to another person. And balik tayo doon, you should be ready emotionally, you should be ready physically, financially, even spiritually, psychologically. And then, when that right person would come, you can say na, I would like to spend the rest of my life with this person. And it takes a mature mind to say that. That is why, when you're young, you don't decide parang rush na mga decisions, because sometimes hindi basta-basta yung decision na yan. Remember, once you decide, it's not only based on feeling, but it's also commitment in the relationship. Like, for example, 5 years na kayo, and then one day you wake up and then sasabihin mo na, parang nag-less yung love ko sa tao na to, hindi, wala nang excitement, wala nang thrill, parang hindi ko na siya nami-miss. That's not a gauge na you don't love a person. Because ang decision mo to love a person is not just a feeling, but here, it's in your brain. You decided already to love that person. So you stick with that person because you have the commitment. Unless you have other reasons. But yung love is not purely emotion. But part of it is actually decision to love that person. Kung medyo tumatamlay na yung relationship ninyo, so what you can do is encourage your partner, your girlfriend or boyfriend to explore other things. You do activities together, so para magkaroon ng spice in yung relationship. Because even if you've been together for 20 years, there would still be something that you will discover in that person when you wake up in the morning. It takes a lifetime to know a person. So that would make it not boring. Hindi kayo dapat mabored sa isa't isa kasi mayroon kayo na-discover every now and then with that person, with your wife or husband, with your girlfriend or boyfriend.
Yun, we need to be complete as self-sufficient natin ang ourselves, diba? Before we engage into a relationship with other, because we don't rely our own or ourselves to others. Example, our happiness. Exactly. What we want to do in life, diba? You surround your people or find people that fulfill different things in your life. Na it is not just our friends. We have different groups, diba? Example, if you want to go biking, it's not just your family or do this. Pwede ka naman maghanap na ibang friends na you have different level or want to experience in life. Dapat we will not surround ourselves in just a specific group. We need to explore, diba?
Exactly.
We need to explore.
So meaning to say, your life is not only, hindi siya umiikot sa isang tao lang. It has to be balanced. Meron ka ring time sa family mo, meron ka ring time sa friends mo, meron ka ring me time. Yes. Na you want to do things on your own. And of course, meron ding what you call this one, activities na kayong dalawa magkasama to make it really balanced.
That's right. No, we have different relationships, friends and family. As mentioned earlier, na it's not just bounded with romantic. We have different kinds of relationships that we can have. Different groups of people, as long as we invest emotions, or if we have different experiences in life, we can call that as a relationship. And as mentioned a while ago by Doc, that we need to have open conversation with ourselves, assess ourselves if we were still okay. We need to consult our parents, our family members, or our guardian if we have confusion, if you have questions that you cannot answer. And also, Having relationship outside with your family could also help you to know yourself more, to know your strength, to know your weaknesses, and also to develop yourself into a next level of type of relationship, diba?
Yes.
That is, everything is a process. Do not rush things. Yun yung gina-mention ni Doc. That also, I hope that will parang mag-mark sa inyo na don't rush things. Everything takes time. In terms of letting go, moving on. Though the pain is there. The pain is there. Just feel it. Diba? That's one way in moving on. Feel the pain. Because you can never walk away from pain, though.
Yes,
diba?
exactly.
You can never walk with, if you walk away from it, it will walk with you. Babalik at babalik yan. If you don't feel it.
The Youth Matter, a mental health awareness podcast, is composed of 3 episodes centered on mental health disorders, relationships, and pressure. We hope that our sincere effort and personal stories would remove the stigma around mental health conversations and intensify suicide prevention. This is brought to you by the Davao City Red Cross Youth and Health Services with the support of the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent.
Since you already heard the text and got to listen to some of personal experiences regarding with this episode entitled Relationship, it's finally to introduce our We Hear You segment or podcast segment, where we listen to your concerns and provide subjective insights that we hope will help you in dealing with those situations. So we asked you to send it through the Google Forms, diba? Along with the postings or the trailer of this podcast. So from the code name Milky Way, now according to him or her, I have been very distant with my father for a very long time. We seldom talk at home, and we seem like we live separately even if we are at the same house. Even my parents are always fighting and shouting at each other, which really annoys me, but at the same time makes me sad. I always pretend that I'm not affected, yet I can't help but sometimes cry as I go to bed at night. How do I deal with this kind of atmosphere in our home?
Okay. Siguro marami nakaka-relate yan, no? Na mga youth or mga teenagers. But I think that's a very difficult situation and it takes understanding yung family dynamics to resolve that. And most of the time, we offer family therapy or family counseling kasi it doesn't only involve the person, yung anak, but also dapat merong participation and cooperation ng mga parents. Because the ones that's affecting the child, yung family members, especially the parents. Because the family atmosphere, hindi siya maganda and hindi siya conducive for establishing a more stable and quality relationship. So, as they always say, minsan ang nagiging biktima ay yung mga anak. And sometimes we blame the children why they are depressed or why they are exhibiting some abnormalities or maladjustments. Pero hindi realize ng mga parents na sila pala contributed to that development of the disorder, especially depression. And it's sad to say na yung nagiging victim is yung anak. Kasi napapasa sa kanila. Kumbaga, ang may problema talaga is the entire family. Nag-manifest lang yung signs and symptoms doon sa anak. So sometimes we blame the child. Bakit ka depressed? Kasalanan mo yan. Pero hindi nila nare-realize na part pala sila sa dahilan kung bakit nagkaroon ng depression yung bata. So I would really suggest this would take the entire family or all the members of the family to participate and cooperate to resolve that issue. But in your own little ways, what you can do is to reflect sa kanila. Kung ito yung pinapakita nila, they're always shouting and arguing in front of you, and then they would what you can do is, gawin mo yung kabaliktaran. You show kindness, you're being calm. That's why when it nami-mirror sa kanila yung ginagawa mo, yung behavior mo, mapapaisip sila without you telling them that what they're doing is not right. It's a subtle way of telling them, you're affecting me and you're part of the problem. Nagkakaroon ng shame on their part, nagkakaroon ng guilt, and then, pinaka-importante, ma-realize nila na hindi pala maganda yung ginagawa natin. So, even if hindi mo sila tinuturuan kung anong dapat nilang gawin to establish a peaceful environment within the family. But, kung ikaw, you start it within yourself, and then nakikita nila, bakit kaya ganito yung attitude or ways ng anak namin, masyadong kalma. So, parang sila mismo as adults, nahihiya sila, buti pa yung anak natin, mas nakakaintindi compared sa atin. That's a very subtle way of at least influencing your parents on how to really establish a more peaceful environment within the home. But I would really suggest, if that's the case, and that's a situation, especially if it's really severe, I would really recommend you seek help from a counselor or even a psychologist and a psychiatrist, and you involve all the family members so that they become aware of the situation, and also mabigyan ka ng early intervention before pa siya mahulog sa isang serious mental problem or even a psychological disorder.
You need to seek help then,
Yes.
in terms of this kind of situation. So another sender, Doc, no, with ng code name niya, but according to him, how do you recover from friends which we considered dearest but lost them along the way?
Okay, whatever is the reason why they have disappeared, maybe it's because of death, or maybe because it was just a decision, and for whatever reason, you have to remember that your life doesn't stop in there. That person is part of your life, and in that period of your life, and somehow you need to move on, and you need to give yourself a chance to meet other people and re-establish another connection, another quality relationship or quality friendship. But what is important again is that that person will always be remembered and will always be special to you. Do not also expect that the next person that will come into your life will be exactly the person na nawala sa buhay mo. Kasi iba-iba po ang tao na pwede nating makilala and pwede nating maging kaibigan. But remember, give yourself a chance and socialize, and give other people also a chance to come into your life. Huwag po nating isarado ang ating pag-iisip, huwag nating isarado yung ating puso. So, life has to move on, and then, who knows? May marami pang experiences na pwede mong ma-experience, na pwede mong maranasan with another person.
But different person.
Maybe a different experience.
So be open.
Open lang tayo. And then we should not get stuck with that kind of yung na dapat siya lang talagang best friend mo or siya lang talagang kaibigan mo. So, parte na siya ng buhay natin ay hindi na yan mawawala. Pero dapat maging open tayo for new experiences.
So, thank you. Thank you, Doc, for imparting those advices to our youth or sa mga senders natin. So, thank you for sharing also sa mga nag-send through Google Forms, for sharing your stories. For those who also want a piece of advice, do share your concerns through the Google Forms linked to this podcast, along with this podcast. And again, we'd like to remind you that whoever and wherever you are, we hear you.
Aside from this podcast series, we hope that you can also support another initiative of the organization, the Unity Virtual Run 2, a virtual running and fundraising event to support the multi-price humanitarian activities of the Philippine Red Cross Davao City Chapter. The registration period runs from February 14 to March 31. You can check out the details for this fundraiser through the link shared along with this posting.
I have to say that this episode was very comforting because I know na we experience the same thing in terms of relationship. And I hope we all can draw inspirations and find those missing puzzle pieces of our lives from this amazing talk. So thank you so much, Dr. 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝘁𝗶, for joining us in our second episode of our Youth Matter podcast. And is there anything you'd like to share to our youth before we end our show or our podcast?
Just continue learning and do not rush things until you can say that this is the time for me to engage in a relationship because I am physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually ready. So for those who wants to reach out also, you can find me on Facebook, Dr. 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝘁𝗶, or my YouTube channel, Dr. 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗁. And maybe you can message me privately for your other concerns, and I can also reach out and give you some advices on different matters. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. So to you who have reached this part, thank you so much for listening. Please do us a favor and spread the word by sharing this podcast through different social media sites. So Facebook, YouTube, and also this podcast is also available in Anchor and Spotify. So if there are matters that you'd like to address in our show, especially in our third episode of the Youth Matter podcast about mental health, feel free to share those or ask for advice through the Google Forms shared along with these postings. Go on and share our podcast streaming links. Tune in to our upcoming episodes. So before we finally end this episode, we will leave you with this quote by Colonel West. So according to him, you have to recognize that there cannot be a relationship unless there is commitment, unless there is loyalty, unless there is love, patience, and persistence. So thank you everyone for listening to the Youth Matter podcast, a podcast where we hear the youth and the youth can hear us.
Bye.